Today is the 16-year anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, which happens to be the last movie George Lucas ever directed. Let's talk about it.
Have you seen Star Wars?
Well, happy May 19th, everyone. This is kind of a unique day for Star Wars, more or less a unique month for Star Wars. We have May the 4th be with you. May 16th is the anniversary of Attack of the Clones. Today on May 19th, we had The Phantom Menace and also Revenge of the Sith. And then I think on May 25th was A New Hope and... is it either Empire or Return of the Jedi? And then one of those came out on May 21st. So the point is, May is a month where Star Wars movies typically released, mainly when they're George Lucas Star Wars movies, and Revenge of the Sith uniquely is the very last one. Now, we could talk about The Phantom Menace, but we're doing a watch party for my documentary of The Phantom Menace later tonight if you guys want to come join us and check that out. And if you haven't, check out my documentary on The Phantom Menace. It's called The Phantom Menace 20 Years Later, and now that it's been 2 years, I think it's a good time to go look back at it. But this video is about Revenge of the Sith specifically. It's kind of unique because it ended the prequel trilogy, but yet was the most renowned of the prequel trilogy. I remember when this movie came out, and I was very, very young. I was 6 years old, I think, going to see this movie. I remember this being a movie that I skipped school for. I think I'd been going to daycare or something at the time, and I remember going to see Batman Begins, the one with Scarecrow in it, and telling, like, my daycare teacher, like, I really want to see Revenge of the Sith again. And I think she asked something like, well, how many times have you seen it? And I was like, probably like 4 or 5 times by that point. I mean, I saw this movie so many times in theaters. Thought it was a very good movie at the time. As I've grown older, my love for the prequels and my love for this movie specifically has kind of swayed. It's gone down a little bit, and that's just because we look at things differently. But I think this movie is unique because it does mark the end of the prequel trilogy, but it marks the best one of the prequels. When you hear people talk about the prequel trilogy in Star Wars, and people who defend the prequels, who say they're big prequel fans, more often than not, it seems like they're only specifically talking about Revenge of the Sith. And why is that? I feel like because even at the time when this movie came out, people more or less were surprised by how much they liked it, or I'm not going to say didn't like it. I feel like a lot of people weren't surprised at that point if they didn't like a Star Wars movie, because Attack of the Clones came out 3 years earlier, and it was kind of confirmation that Star Wars wasn't what it used to be. The Phantom Menace was a big disappointment across the entire world, but then Attack of the Clones was kind of that confirmation of, oh, okay, so it's just always going to be like this now. Then things changed 3 years later with Revenge of the Sith, which is ironic because after The Phantom Menace, George Lucas specifically said, fans are not going to like episodes 2 and 3. He said they're not going to like episode 2 because it's going to be way too lovey-dovey, and they're going to hate episode 3 because it's way too dark. And it's kind of funny how things have reversed. People really don't like Attack of the Clones because of the lovey-dovey dialogue and all that stuff. It's got some bad scenes, but when it comes to Revenge of the Sith, people love the fact that it is a darker tone of a movie. People like the idea of Anakin turning to the dark side, and then that completes the story of this tragedy of seeing this so-called hero fall into a villain and really letting the most evil man in the galaxy corrupt him and becoming the most evil man in the galaxy in some sense. I think this is sad that it is the last movie George Lucas has written or directed. He's directed scenes in Red Tails, he's worked on other projects in the past with Lucasfilm, but still, this was the last time George Lucas really said, I'm gonna make a movie. And I think that's sad because it did close out the prequel trilogy. It is the one that people like a lot more. But I think it showed that there's still some life left in George Lucas when it comes to movie making, because compared to The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith is fun. It may not be the best Star Wars movie that we have, even though some people would falsely argue so, and I'm just teasing you, but I do want to say that out of the prequel trilogy, out of a lot of the Star Wars movies we have, this one is kind of fun. It doesn't really feel, I'm not going to say like a typical film like A New Hope or Empire or Return of the Jedi in terms of that grounded Star Wars storytelling adventure, but it does feel like a fun action blockbuster adventure that happens to be a Star Wars movie, and I think it works really well in that sense. That first hour is extremely fun, and then that last hour is when things completely turn and go to a dark tenor, and we could have changed it. We could have done some better script writing, of course. There's plenty of things that we can criticize about this movie and praise about this movie, but I think in hindsight, looking back, now that it's been 16 long years, I think it's one of the most fun Star Wars movies that we've had in the past 16 years. Something like The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Rogue One. Those movies aren't really that fun to me. I think The Force Awakens was fun for the first hour. I think Solo: A Star Wars Story, despite not being a great story, was a fun adventure Star Wars movie. And that's where I think it's kind of unique to go back and look at Revenge of the Sith, because I think that marked the shift in George Lucas and his approach to Star Wars and the future of Star Wars stories, and that is making the stories a little bit more adventurous, a little bit more fun, and a little bit more world expanding. I mean, you look at the Clone Wars that came out after Revenge of the Sith, and it seemed like he was kind of basing most of his future Star Wars projects on this movie. It wasn't really about Attack of the Clones or The Phantom Menace anymore. If you guys remember the Tartakovsky, if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize, but the 2003 version of the Clone Wars, that felt very, very relevant to The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But if you look at the Clone Wars that we have today, the one that we all know and love, that one doesn't seem so grounded in The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. It doesn't feel like it has the same tone. However, it does perfectly tie into Revenge of the Sith. And so I think the point I'm trying to make here is that George changed things with Revenge of the Sith. Not only were they more fun, but they also had that kind of dark undertone to them that could appeal to the mass audience, the adults of the world, or the adults of the Star Wars fandom, but at the same time appeal to these younger kids who still want to see the lightsabers, the action, the boom boom in the sky, but just want to enjoy a good Star Wars movie. I think he was able to accomplish both, and that's kind of unique considering that when he was approaching Star Wars, it's always, I want to make these for the kids, I want to make these for the kids. Then Revenge of the Sith comes out, he's a little hypocritical. He goes, oh, I wouldn't take a 5 or 6 year old to this, it's too dark for them. But at the same time, it's meant for kids. I just think it's funny how he was able to appeal to a mass audience with Revenge of the Sith and continued to do so with the Clone Wars series. And I would even argue with the Bad Batch series. It's continuing that same vibe of having a darker tone, but yet being kind of a fun, geared towards kids Star Wars adventure. And honestly, looking back, I think this all started with Revenge of the Sith, because even after that, George was planning on doing Star Wars Underworlds, which, if you've seen the footage of it, the leaked stuff we're showing off right now, it looks very akin to Revenge of the Sith, more so than Attack of the Clones or The Phantom Menace. When I see Star Wars Underworlds, I think Revenge of the Sith vibes. That's what I immediately get from this, and that makes me kind of wonder how the George Lucas sequel trilogy would have gone, or future projects underneath him, if they would have kept that same tone that Episode 3 did, or if it would have gone a completely different route and felt more like The Force Awakens, where that felt like it was the original Star Wars trilogy again. It didn't feel like a new interpretation of it. But it is sad to say that Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is the last Star Wars movie, and the last movie that George Lucas has directed, and it was the end of an era. I mean, at the time, it was the end of a saga, and we know that that's not the case anymore, and that's completely fine, but it just is like a timepiece now of how different Star Wars could have and would have been if we continued with that same kind of tone and the same look and feel of Revenge of the Sith, which, like I said, looking at Star Wars Underworlds, looking at the Clone Wars as it is today, it really feels like that was going to be the route Star Wars would go. A little dark on the undertone, but overall meant for mass audiences, broad appeal to kids, and broad appeal to adults. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think about Revenge of the Sith? It's been 16 years. Do you love it more today than you did 16 years ago? Do you remember seeing it 16 years ago? Were some of you even alive 16 years ago? I'm not even old, but I have to say that now. I feel like it's weird. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you guys think about Revenge of the Sith and it being George Lucas's last directed Star Wars movie and last directed movie in general? Will we see him again? Who knows? Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like or a comment because it does about the channel. If you want to become an Only fan, that means you're a big fan of Star Wars Only. All you have to do is press that subscribe button, hit the bell icon, stay up to date on the latest news in Star Wars, and that is what we do here on Star Wars Only. So thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.